and gentlemen, welcome on into another episode of Fantasy Daily. Good morning, good evening, whenever you are tuning in. If you are tuning in this morning, welcome to a fabulous, would be Saturday morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I, as always, am your host, NathanPaswell, here with you on Fantasy Daily. Follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, blah, 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 all that. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff below. I am joined today once again by my friend John Landry, the lead analyst for the show. John Landry, welcome on back. We are rolling through the QB sleepers tonight. We have got a big show for you because not only are we doing QB sleepers, we are doing the Adp check just as promised from last week, where we take players that we talked about from the draft or pass show and we kind of talk about where their ADP is now compared to last week and if they're rising, falling. And we got some big changes in that, some big surprises that I saw and some things that I didn't think were going to happen, a lot of funny differences in that. So John, how you feeling tonight going into this QB sleeper show?
I'm excited. Should be a good show. Got a lot of information here to put out.
Yeah, once you really get settled into the thick of going through and combing every player down, you really start to get a sense of what teams are going to be hot, what teams are going to be cold, or potential. You know what I mean? It's not exactly, it's going to happen, but you see the potential in teams, you see the potential in players, and this is an exciting time because we are talking about quarterbacks, we're talking about running backs, the big names, wide receivers, all the players that we're really going to need come mid-season. When we're making those playoff push and constructing those teams during draft time and making sure that we got all the stars aligning to make sure that we bring home that trophy gold. So everybody, thank you so much again for tuning in. We have got some quick points today, and I'm going to take just the quick points to myself and keep it to myself because apparently this was just a kick in my face day for all of the sleepers that I want to talk about. So Adp Checks, he was supposed to be traded to the Houston Texans. He failed his physical today, and he will be reverted back to the Miami Dolphins. So Adp Checks returns back to the Dolphins. I talked about Mike G being a sleeper, but I don't believe Adp Checks affects this much at all. I don't think Adp Checks, obviously they wanted to trade him away, so it's going to be difficult coming back to a team and going, hey, I'm back. I just got traded away, and here I am. I'm back. You guys don't want me, but I'm here anyway, whether you like it or not. So I don't expect that to affect Mike G's status at all. Rashad Penny also popped up today with a groin strain, so please, for the love of everything holy, do not let this be the beginning of Rashad Penny and his injury concerns throughout the entire year. But it might be something that we have to monitor, and if this does continue up until week 1, then we're going to talk a lot about Ken Walker being the guy instead of Rashad Penny. So Pete Carroll came out today, said he does trust Kenneth Walker to be an every down back or 3 down back if needed. So Rashad Penny groin strain, Pete Carroll saying that same day, not a great look for one of my sleepers that I'm super psyched about. So we're going to have to keep a temperature check on that as we get closer to draft day. But let us move right on. And John Landry, I believe you went first last night, if I am correct. So I will take the lead on this one. And we are going to be talking about a player who I've been talking about since last year, and I continue to talk about him, and I kind of have no choice but to revert back to me wanting to get into this argument about this player. Excuse me, sip time. Talking about this player because I think we aren't showing my man Jalen Hurts enough love. So if you guys have been following the show, you know I'm a big fan of Jalen Hurts. He was the quarterback that I was targeting a lot last year. He's the quarterback I basically wanted out of everybody last year, and I'm still pretty high on him. I think I'm looking at a lot of different quarterbacks later on in rounds, so I'm probably not going to draft up to get Jalen Hurts this year. But I am still making my case that we are not showing my man Jalen Hurts enough love this year. Last year I was crazy about him, over the moon, and he started off absolutely insane. From weeks 1 through 11, he was the quarterback number 1. So with all the stars aligning of what Jalen Hurts could have been last year, you saw it weeks 1 through 11. He was an absolute show-stopping quarterback. The quarterback won through those weeks, and the consistency fell off later on in the season. But the rushing totals are still there. The potential was still there. He just didn't really have the pieces to get it going. So he finished off to keep it going. He finished off the season as the QB9, and he hurt some feelings, including my own in the fantasy championship, where he really didn't, put out that week. I think he scored like 12 points. But he got you to the big dance. Weeks 1 through 11, him being the quarterback 1 and where you drafted him, which I believe was like the 12th round last year, he carried you on a lot of teams where you were able to draft, strong teams, and this is why we talk about it every single year. This is why this quarterback sleeper show is so important, and talking about these quarterbacks is so important, because they are the players that you can stack on your team later on in the rounds after you have already constructed wide receivers and running backs like crazy, and then this player comes in, ends up being the quarterback 1, and boosts you straight through to the playoffs. And that's basically what Jalen Hurts did for me and anybody who drafted him last season and played him starting week 1. He shot you right through to the playoffs, to basically where you didn't have to worry about it. Obviously, I counted on him a little bit too much, and it lost me my fantasy championship, lost me a trophy. But that's all right, because he got me to the big dance, and not many people get to say they get to the big dance with a player that they drafted in the 9th round. So with this year, Jalen Hurts, I still do believe that he has that tremendous upside. The rushing ability is going to be there. They added A.J. Brown, which gives him that additional, firepower. They still have players over there that they can slot in, that they're going to play a lot more. And I do believe that Devontae Smith is still going to be a player who we look at and we kind of have interest in throughout the week. So I do believe that the offense has the potential to be there. Miles Sanders never, the running game's never really been predicated on a running back that they have behind them. So I do believe Jalen Hurts is going to steal a lot of work from the running backs over there. I believe he's going to continue to put up a lot of rushing touchdown totals. And he's a playmaker. He really does make it happen. I really, him, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, they're all kind of in that same window for me as players who can really make something happen on their own. And as much as you don't have the structure around Jalen Hurts or Kyler Murray that you do Josh Allen, and maybe they don't have the arm that they do, they make things happen, and that's what accelerates them to the quarterback 1 role, especially when they're doing it on their feet. So I believe Jalen Hurts will keep it going. This is going to be another big year for him, so I don't believe that his ADP right now is matching what he can do for you. So wherever you are in drafts, if you get to that point and Jalen Hurts is sitting there and you have the luxury of wide receiver and running back being strong and you can draft somebody like Jalen Hurts, I still think that you're going to be very, very thankful to have somebody like Jalen Hurts on your team for what he can bring back to you. So I love it. Going right back to Jalen Hurts. I'm super excited for him again this season, and I'm probably going to be targeting him in my home leagues, depending on what I have on wide receiver and running back. But when it comes to 12-man leagues, I will be a little bit cautious and probably take the running backs that are a lot lower, because I think it's more plentiful down there. So John Landry, do you have any thoughts on Jalen Hurts?
I got to say that Jalen Hurts easily has the best rushing upside of all the quarterbacks. What do you have? Over 700 rushing yards last year. That's elite status for quarterbacks. And then I look at his game card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in a row with plus 20 points. Another 30-point game down in there near right before the bye week. So Jalen Hurts can win you a championship this year. He's going at 606. It's a pretty high draft, but I mean, if you build the right team, he might be worth taking.
Right, and I think that's the ADP that I mean, is when you're looking at the 6th round. It's one of those players that, it's not Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson price. It's a pretty high price, but it's in that sweet spot where if you are, stacked at running back and wide receiver, and maybe you got your tight end, you're going 2-2-1, you got your 5th round, tight end, and maybe you got Dalton Schultz in the 5th round, you sneak over to the 6th round and Jalen Hurts is sitting there. I do believe the price for him there is really, really good, and that's why I'm surprised that not a lot of people are drafting him and he's not more in the consideration of players higher up. So, love Jalen Hurts this season. Alrighty, John, why don't you go on ahead with your first running quarterback of the night?
So, my first quarterback. This was hard to put together because I want to have the faith that Mr. Sunshine can be that guy. He was a really hyped quarterback coming into last year's draft. I know I drafted him in my first round for the Dynasty redraft for rookie picks. And you know what? He ended up hitting the waivers because he had such an awful season last year. And that is Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville Jaguars. He's going at 146 right now. So that's the 12-13 turn. So he's basically a free pick if you want. So the team he was on last year was so bad. And I think a lot of that has to do with the head of the snake, Urban Myers. They cut that head off. And you know what? A bigger, badder snake is going to come in. And I believe Jaguars can be a better team this year because they hired Doug Peterson. Whoever doesn't know, Doug Peterson led the Eagles to a Super Bowl win in Super Bowl 52. Unfortunately, it was against the Patriots, but you know what? Everybody has their time. So I want to bring in some stats on Trevor Lawrence that kind of portray what was and what could be. So Trevor Lawrence was 30th in completion percentage. He was 32nd in yards per attempt. And he was 25th in interceptions. That is not good. He was 7th in pass attempts, threw a ton, 2nd in pressured throws, that's a bad O-line, and he was 1st in dropped passes. That means his receivers were letting him down. He wasn't letting the receivers down, they were letting him down. So he had an awful rookie season, and I don't think that's a good portrayal of, you know, what is to be the next John Elway. So this year, Jaguars have turned it around. They've brought in some new talent. They got Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram. They got Etienne back. So there's a good chance, a great chance, that Trevor Lawrence is going to not even be a sleeper. He's going to have a breakout season. He's going to be able to portray who he is and why he was the number one draft pick. So he doesn't have as great of a rushing upside as Jalen Hurts, but you know what? He's got rushing upside. He's not afraid to leave the pocket and, you know, get dirty. So Trevor Lawrence going near the end of the draft, you might not want to draft him. You might want to get a quarterback before that, but he's going to have flyer games that are going to be stellar. So I'm happy to believe that Trevor Lawrence could be a sleeper this year.
I feel like the overwhelming point that we're missing about Trevor Lawrence too is how much he had around him last year, which was just absolutely nothing. It was abysmal when you look at the team structure that he had around him last year. And on this show, we talk about it a lot, you know, especially for, you know, NFL world is a lot different from fantasy football world. But when we're talking about fantasy football world, team structure makes a huge difference. So Trevor Lawrence finished last year as the quarterback 22. He actually finished above Jared Goff by 2 spots, which is hilarious. And he finished 5 spots above Daniel Jones. So again, hilarious. Sam Darnold, he finished over him. Davis Mills down at 29. But Trevor Lawrence also has the second easiest quarterback schedule this year for fantasy quarterbacks, and like you said, he's got Doug Peterson now, man. You know, so when you talk about Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, what they've done since they've lost Doug Peterson, not great. You know what I mean? So I feel like Doug Peterson is one of those coaches that teams really gravitate towards. You know, Trevor Lawrence is really going to gravitate towards. He's going to build around Trevor Lawrence. So shameful. So we're still going to talk about it many years later. Shameful that the Eagles let Doug Peterson go. Makes no sense why Doug Peterson sat for a year. And I think the Jaguars are going to be, you know, a pretty decent team. You know, obviously they're not going to be Super Bowl playoff caliber, but they're going to be a decent team with Doug Peterson over there building around T-Law, who had absolutely nothing, and he's got a wicked cakewalk schedule for quarterback this year. So I love it. I love the Trevor Lawrence picks.
Not to mention, Trevor Lawrence never lost a game until he got into the NFL. So you know he's pissed off.
Yeah, and he's lost a lot since then.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
But yeah, the potential for Trevor Lawrence to be that guy that we want him to be and the guy that he was in college, it's there. You know what I mean? It's definitely still in the realm of him to return to his Clemson form and, you know, kind of give you those flashes every single week. So I think it's there. Hopefully that Christian Kirk injury that popped up isn't too long. We'll get the update on that when it comes in, but it seemed minor, so we didn't really mention it on the show. Alrighty, I am going to get into my next pick. That way we don't drag this on too long because we're already halfway through and we want to get to the ADP check. So let us begin with my second pick, or let us continue with my second pick, and that is Trey Lance. And this is the wait for... Cue the soundbite. The next big thing in fantasy football, quarterback Trey Lance, and it is really getting difficult for me to contain my excitement. It's getting difficult for me to hear anything about Jimmy G and not scream at my phone to say, just do it already. Just trade him, get him off the team, just announce Trey Lance as the starter, whatever the heck you want to do. We love you, Jimmy G. Go light it up in New York or wherever it is you're going to end up, but get out of the way because it is time for Trey Lance season to go. Now, let's highlight the negative because obviously I'm overzealous about every player that I like, but last year's sample sizes were very small for us. He's only played 6 games last year, of which he threw 1 pass for 5 yards and a touchdown, which passer rating considered, all those things considered, retire right there. Canton, here we come. I got a perfect passer rating, 100% completion rating. I'm Hall of Fame bound. But anyway, the other 2 games he was brought in for just rushing plays, so we really only have 70 passes to really base anything off of. But even with this sample size, I understand that some people can kind of approach it as you only saw those flashes, you only have this small sample size, so let's not get excited like a lot of people are getting excited about Justin Fields for. But I do believe that Trey Lance is already light fields away from where Justin Fields wishes he could be right now. No offense to Justin Fields, we like Justin Fields, but I am over the moon about Trey Lance's potential and especially where he ends up in San Francisco. And I think we are really just awaiting the inevitable start for Trey Lance to get in there, get some weeks under his belt, get some reps under his belt with the first team, and then really start taking control of this team. So Kyle Shanahan announced that it is the Trey Lance show. So he is more than eager to play his quarterback. Now, whether or not Trey Lance is the starter week 1 is still up in the air. I know a lot of people are like, well, he said it, so he's going to week 1. That's coach speak. A lot of coach speak can change. Things can change, and they can roll over to Jimmy G in week 2. What I'm saying is when it begins, when Trey Lance is finally given the keys to the team and he is allowed to run the game and command the offense, I believe that Trey Lance is going to be the next big thing that we talk about in fantasy football, like we did with Lamar Jackson, like we did with Patrick Mahomes, where it is just this overwhelming dominance of fantasy football points. Trey Lance's ability to do just about everything you need on the field is massive. And while I don't think, Trey Lance is going to be the next Patrick Mahomes, I think he's going to be a hybrid of what we've seen in these fantasy producing quarterbacks where he can throw the deep ball, he can make things happen on his feet, he's incredibly smart when it comes to his football IQ, and his potential is absolutely immense. So regardless of the sample sizes, regardless of the little thing that you could see, his completion percentage wasn't great, but with another year in the offense, his connection with Brandon Ayuk that we're hearing, he has Deebo Samuel who's going to, get the ball thrown to him a lot more with Trey Lance. He's going to get the hyper targets. Hopefully George Kittle's there. All the tools are there for Trey Lance. So I think as soon as Trey Lance gets the keys to the car, he is going to rocket till the wheels fall off, and he's going to be an insane fantasy asset for your team. And I'm over the moon about Trey Lance. Can't wait for him to get the start. So, John, why don't you go ahead with your next quarterback?
It's tough for me to say this because I was kind of talking down upon him when we were talking about our QB draft pass episode, or maybe it was a wide receiver draft or pass episode. And that quarterback is Tua Tagovailoa, or however you say his last name. I can butcher it. It's fine. ADP 129, so that's mid-late 11th round. Pretty deep in the draft. But you know what? I've looked at his stats, and he's actually a good quarterback. 3rd in accuracy rating, 1st in deep ball completion percentage, 1st in red zone completions percentage, 4th in play action completion percentage. He's good against the zone, and with Hill coming on, which is the biggest factor in all this, they're going to have to play zone in the deep end. So he's being set up to be successful. I know he's also probably playing with a chip on his shoulder because of the whole Miami Dolphins, Tom Brady kind of, whatever had happened. So he's got quite a bit to prove. His O-line has improved. They got rid of Brian Flores, and they brought in Mike McDaniels, who is the former offensive coordinator of the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan. So he's going from what was, Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle to Hill, Waddle, and Mike Chief. So he's going from, the coach is going from a system that's going to be, I guess, fairly similar with the player structure. And I kind of like his backfield as well. I mean, Chase Edmonds, Sony Michel, they're not superstars, but they're people who can get something done. So with pieces like Hill and Waddle and being drafted so late, Tua has to be a sleeper. He has to perform, and he's going to end higher than where he's being drafted right now. So I see nothing but positive regression for Tua.
Yeah, Tua gets a lot of hate, but he is on a really, really fast-paced offense that's probably going to be difficult for him to digest within the first few weeks. So I do believe that Tua will get off to a slow start, but I think for where he's being drafted, he's incredibly underrated with his upside because, like you said, the offensive coordinator coming over from San Francisco, you're going to make a lot of difference with that. You're going to make a lot of difference with having Tyreek Hill. You're going to make a lot of difference with being able to throw some deep passes and kind of get the defense off center. This is a really, really fast offense, and obviously also bringing up fast offense to speak on running back. I do believe that Raheem Mostert will be the starter this year because of his speed. I think that's where the team wants to go. And I really, really feel like this, the Tua experiment, we haven't gotten to see everything we wanted to see out of it. You know what I mean? Because it's not... What we've seen in the NFL is not compared to the Tua that we saw at Alabama. So I do believe, like you said, John, that potential is there. His completion or the accuracy rating is there. So when you look at the metrics, he definitely has the potential to be what we want him to be. And I think there is a chance that he finishes within the top 10 this year if they can get it going late and he can really kick it in. Because I think he's another quarterback out there who can get a lot of running back potential. I mean, rushing, total, touchdowns, things like that. I'm ruffling over my words. A lot of goes into this to make this show for us to film this late at night for y'all. Sorry for stumbling over my words. Sorry for getting these water breaks in. But we got to get this information out. Time sensitive, time consuming, time sensitive, all those things about time. Too much time, not enough time. You guys know what it's like. So let us get right back into it with my last quarterback for the evening. And I'm going to talk about a player who I've been talking about all off season because I can't handle the upside and how immense it is going to be. And this is one that I feel extremely confident about, and that's why I saved him for last. And that is Matt Ryan. And have we all forgot about Matt Ryan and his effective days as a fantasy quarterback? Have we all collectively just dismissed Matt Ryan because he was a Falcon? The passing yard totals, the absence of touchdowns being his only vice in fantasy, the fact that he had no offensive line, no coaching staff, the disappearance of his run game after Kyle Shanahan left for the 49ers. Everything around Matt Ryan after Super Bowl 51 absolutely collapsed. It was just the end of everything in Atlanta. And Matt Ryan was a victim of it, same way that Matt Stafford was a victim in Detroit. Now, I don't believe the revitalization that we saw in Matt Stafford going to the Super Bowl, it's going to be the same thing with Matt Ryan. But like I said before, and I'm still going to keep saying it probably throughout the season, Matt Ryan makes them a capable Super Bowl caliber playoff team. So I don't believe that they're going to go to the Super Bowl, but I believe that they're going to be in the conversation at the end of the year with Super Bowl conversation and, AFC Championship conversation and all that. I think Matt Ryan gives them that. They have a good defense. They got Gilly. They got Stephon Gilmore. They have a good defense. They got Shaquille Leonard over there. So they have a really good team. So Matt Ryan was a solid fantasy quarterback despite him being in limbo for such a long time on a team that wasted him away. And much like Stafford and Detroit, it's time for Matty Ice to get some ice back in his veins. So They've been hurting at quarterback for a long time. They played the carousel for a couple years. They finally got Matty Ice, and I think that he's going to be the guy to hang out there for quite a while. I think he signed a 4-year deal. That might be the end of it for him. He's 37, so 4-year deal. That might be the end of it unless he's trying to run with Tom Brady, which I don't think he's going to. But let's go back and compare some elements between Atlanta and Indianapolis. So now Matt Ryan has played his whole career indoors, and for fantasy that's very appealing. It contributes to his passing yard totals. Well, guess what? He's at Lucas Oil. He plays indoors. The offensive line in Atlanta, absolute garbage. The offensive line in Indianapolis, arguably the best in the league, basically the best in the league. The run game in Atlanta, non-existent. Now he has Jonathan Taylor, a slight upgrade. Matt Ryan, he has a wide receiver room right now that is arguably one of the best in the league. Now, he had Julio, I get it, but Julio was definitely on the downside of his career after Super Bowl 51. He had Ridley. Ridley was putting up massive totals and touchdowns, so all of the work that basically Matt Ryan was getting it was going to Calvin Ridley. He didn't have much last year because the team was just absolutely atrocious. So Matt Ryan, the ultimate victim of circumstance in his career the last few years. I think there is no element outside of Matt Ryan does not point to him being a top 7 quarterback. I think he's going to be highly effective. I believe he is massively underdrafted, going in the 13th currently. Draft Matt Ryan and enjoy the ride this season. We love it. You heard it here first. Matt Ryan, top tier. He is going to be a dog this year. So, John, your last quarterback, who I am a huge fan of, and so glad that you're working this point out because you, as the dynasty manager of this player, deserve to have the floor with this player. Go on ahead.
I like to think that I saved the best for last. And don't get me wrong, I love Matt Ryan. I had Matt Ryan on my dynasty team for, I think, 3 years until I picked up this player, which is Derek Carr.
And let me just time you out. Can I just time you out real quick?
Yeah.
So just so the viewers know, when we say our dynasty league is a full keeper league. So we drop our bench at the end of the year. So for anybody hearing John say that he drops, Trevor Lawrence and people like this, it's a different structure. It's a dynasty league, but we drop the bench, so it's a full keeper league is what it is, basically. So just wanted to fit that in there, that John's not crazy out there dropping people like Trevor Lawrence because of a down year. So go on ahead, John. I just wanted to sneak that in.
Well, after that relevance, I picked up Derek Carr probably about halfway through the season, and it's going to pay off. Derek Carr has never been a superstar quarterback, but he's always made waves. If you were to look at his finishes through the last couple of years, 13, 14, 17, 20, 19, 12, they're not stellar amounts. But I just want to point out last year, because that's what we're mostly going to talk about is last year. He had 4,800 passing yards last year, and he was the passing leader through week 12. He was 5th in attempts over the season, 4th in completions over the season, 5th in yards, and 13 in touchdowns. But that's okay. And Derek Carr just got the biggest upgrade in the whole offseason, even bigger than Tyreek Hill. He now has Devontae Adams. He has Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, Brandon Bolden. He is going to zoom up to the top of the quarterback rankings. And the craziest thing that bothers me the most about this is he's being drafted after Aaron Rodgers. That's so insulting. Nobody wants Aaron Rodgers anymore. From what I've seen, he's going to be the biggest bust of this year, and everybody knows that. So my favorite part about this is the division. He's now in a division with Herbert, Wilson, and Mahomes. So that's 6 games that he needs to put on a stellar performance for. So I'm just super excited about Derek Carr going ADP 115. I could see that going up to at least ADP 60, being near the Kyler Murray area. So I'm really excited about Derek Carr, and I want him on my redraft teams.
Absolutely. And that's really what it comes down to is he's 13th in touchdowns. So when you look at his totals where he finishes at quarterback, touchdowns is what you need to get up there. Well, if you want to get touchdowns, getting Devontae Adams and Josh McDaniels might help you a little bit. So I think that Josh McDaniels is a huge, underrated part of this team that, really will excel Derek Carr's career. And having Devontae Adams back, which actually they played together in college. That was Devontae Adams, quarterback in college. That was Derek Carr's wide receiver in college. They won a title together, and they're excited to be back together. So it's going to be a dynamic duo with them two. It's going to be exciting. Devontae Adams brings an element that not many people really understand. I personally believe Devontae Adams to be the greatest wide receiver of all time. Got the man up over here. But the defense on the Raiders, historically, the last, as of late, garbage. Absolute garbage. They're the reason why Derek Carr is always playing from behind. And like you mentioned that division, they're going to continue to play from behind. It's not going anywhere. So Derek Carr, always throwing the ball, always on the field because his defense crap. So he's going to get you a lot of points. He's always going to be out there. He's going to be throwing a lot of touchdowns to our man Devontae Adams. And he's going to have to play to win in a lot of games. So John, I love the pick there. He's another, same here. I'm with you. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks to take off the board, and I'm so glad that you grabbed him there. All right, so let's roll right on to the ADP checks, and we're going to start with quarterbacks, and I'm basically just going to give you the quick highlights, the big, because we want to close you guys out. We're at 30 minutes already, so let's close this out. We're doing the ADP checks is where we're comparing where draft prices were. I think it was, 9 days ago? Yeah, so 9 days ago, we're comparing these two. Not even 9 days ago. 8, whatever.
9 days.
Yeah, 9. Sorry, I'm sleepy, man. It's too much. Too much numbers, too much data. So 9 days ago, we did the draft or pass series, or we finished it off, or we started it, whatever the heck that day was, and we're going through now, and we're going to compare those totals. So Josh Allen has actually fallen 3 spots. It's because he's overdrafted, man. You can't be drafted quarterbacks up there. So nice to see that he's dropping. Kyler Murray has jumped up 2 spots, so he's still in the 5th round spot. Aaron Rodgers dropping down a little bit. He should be dropping. Like John said, he's going to be the biggest bust of the year. Absolutely, Aaron Rodgers is about to get exposed. Trey Lance rising up. He's still in the 9th round. He rose up 4 spots, so exciting for him. See him keep going up. I definitely think he should be taking the chance. Derek Carr down 3 spots. That's fine. Keep falling. I love it. Keep falling. Don't talk about him anymore. Nobody say anything about Derek Carr after this. You heard it from us. We love him. Don't tell anybody now. Let him fall down. Let him fall to the 12th, 13th round, and you can scoop up a quarterback 1 for basically nothing. Speaking of scooping up quarterback 1s for basically nothing, Matt Ryan, who was the 15th round, he was 174th overall. Now he's 154th overall, jumping up 2 rounds to the 13th round from the 15th, jumping up 20 spots altogether. So Matt Ryan, y'all have been apparently listening to the Fantasy Daily and Nathan going off about Matt Ryan. You're going out to the mock drafts, you're hitting him hard, you drafted Matt Ryan, and now he's rising up 20 spots. So not many crazy changes on ADP for running back. Zeke goes up 2 spots. Javonte Williams down 1, who's still being extremely overdrafted. Leonard Fournette is still even, has not moved at all. He's still at pick 25. Melvin Gordon going up 1. McCaffrey is breaking even, still wildly overdrafted. Damian Harris up 2 spots. Ramondre Stevenson up 2 spots, but I think John will agree with me that Ramondre Stevenson will probably be climbing up very, very soon. Ken Walker up 1, but I do believe that will change soon with the groin strain injury on Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny up 9 spots, so it looks like people also tuning into Fantasy Daily. Notice that the big jumps are the players that we've been talking about here on Fantasy Daily. Those are all the listeners and the viewers watching Fantasy Daily, getting down on it and making sure that it happens in the mock draft. So DeAndre Swift, he is up 5 positions. Travis Etienne up 6 positions. So we see a lot of running backs going up pretty high. Quarterbacks kind of breaking even. Moving on to wide receivers, we got Michael Thomas falling 3 spots, Tyreek Hill falling 2 spots, Adam Thielen falling 1 spot, and that's kind of that 6th round spot for Thielen, so you'll see that fluctuate between 1 and 2 spots throughout the time. He's going to stay there. Juju up 4 spots, good for him. MVS down, up 9 spots. Mecole Hardman up 14 spots, so it seems like people are starting to rise on the other Kansas City wide receivers as well. Starting to feel like, they could be, anybody's game over there as well. Like we were talking about, Darnell Mooney somehow breaks even. He is exactly the same spot that he was last 9 days ago. Brandon Cooks up 2, A.J. Brown up 1. So A.J. Brown, I do believe, is another one of those guys that's going overdrafted. So he shouldn't be rising. He should be falling. ADP check on tight ends. Everybody's still just about exactly the same where they are. Zach Ertz is rising. He went up 4. Mike Gesicki up 1. That was probably from the Adam Shaheen news. I bet you, due to recency bias, you'll see that fall within a week. But Zach Ertz rising up as well because we love it. John Landry, is there anything you'd like to add before we close out this show? And thank you again, my friend, for joining us as always.
I think it's important to know that a lot of the RBs moved up in draft positions. I think that's people starting to notice that the running back pool is so thin that they're taking the running backs first.
Excellent point. Absolutely, yeah, because running back class, wicked thin. We've been talking about it for the last week or so. Extremely, extremely thin on, what you can get, especially that running back too. So good point, John. That's probably everybody running to get that running back too, or that third flex spot filled up with a running back to ensure that they have that.
Josh Allen fell 3 spots. That's early in the draft. Tyreek Hill fell 2 spots. He's early in the draft.
Yep. Javonte Williams down 1, Zeke up 2. So a little bit of fluctuation in those early rounds. It's going to be a tough one, but you will be prepared because you tune into Fantasy Daily on the daily. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Be back tomorrow with the beginner's guide to drafting fantasy football, all that stuff. So if you guys are new to this, or even if you just want to see what our basic muscle memory reactions are when we're going into drafts, the stuff that we carry with us every single day that we almost forget about, because like I said, it is muscle memory. But we're going to be going through all that stuff. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. John Landry, again, thank you so much for being with us and coming on the show. Everybody, you have a good day or a good night, whatever it is time that you're watching. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night.